Hello and welcome to Art with Anna. Today I am very excited to do some art with you. In the spirit of Halloween and gloomy days, we are going to focus on a painting by Edvard Munch, and it's called The Scream. So you've probably seen it before. It's quite famous. It's often parodied. And even the movie Scream and the movie's Scary Movie, their masks are kind of based off of this painting. So we are going to talk a little bit about the artist and a little bit about the origin of this painting, but first we have to talk about the supplies that we need. So let's do that next. The first thing that we'll need is construction paper, and we will need a dark blue, a red, a black, and a white. You'll need some white, black, blue, yellow, and orange paint. I don't have orange, so I'm mixing my yellow with my red. You'll need a palette, paintbrush, a dish for water, scissors, a black marker, and finally glue. I unfortunately can only find my tape, so I'll be using tape today, but glue will be working better. Alright, now that we have all of our supplies, we can talk a little bit about the artist. So, Edvard Munch, not pronounced Edvard Munch, which is how I for a really long time thought it was pronounced, and I had to re-look it up for this video, but it is in fact Edvard Munch. So let's say that together. Edvard Munch. Not Edvard Munch. Anyway, he was a Norwegian painter. And he was born in the mid-1800s, died in the mid-1900s, around the age of 80. And he led a pretty sad life, if you can imagine from his painting. He said that disease and death and sadness followed him everywhere he went. So, sounds pretty sad to me. The reason he made the picture The Scream, or the painting The Scream, is because he claimed to have had this experience. He said that he was walking with friends and all of a sudden the sky went red. He felt really tired and he had to rest against a fence, and he saw in the distance the city had turned blue and these tongues of flames had shown up above the city, and he kind of felt the silent scream throughout him. And while all this is happening, his friends were just walking ahead. They didn't see the same thing. It was just kind of a moment that he had himself. But he painted this a few different ways. It left a lasting impression on him. And he just was really sad. A lot of other people interpret this painting meaning that he thought that God was dead, that there was no God, and that materialism wasn't satisfying his heart. So that's a little history, sad history on The Scream. I wish it was more of a fun history. But that's the story behind it. So let's take a look at the painting and kind of the details of it. Alright, so if we look at this painting, the first thing that we notice is obviously the figure in the front that is screaming. And that is obviously a self-portrait. As we know, Edward felt like he had this moment happen in his life. Now, so if we look in the background, we can see that there is some water, and this is called a fjord, and it's spelled strangely. It's spelled F-J-O-R-D, but it's pronounced fjord. So let's try saying that, fjord. Good. So a fjord is kind of this inlet of water from the sea, and it's usually surrounded by cliffs. So the bridge that he's walking on is going over this fjord. And he is from Norway. He's Norwegian, as we mentioned. And it turns out that someone had found the exact spot that this painting was painted at, and it is in the capital city of Oslo. So, fun fact. In the distance, you can see that there are kind of rolling hills, so that's what the landscape looks like. And then on the bridge with him is his two friends who were walking ahead while he was having kind of this dreadful moment. So those are all the aspects that we'll have to make today. First step is going to take your red sheet of paper and we're going to cut it in half. We want a half sheet of red paper, and I've already taken time to cut mine in half. One of our edges we're also going to cut out kind of a wave, so we're just gonna make sure our line isn't perfectly straight. We want kind of a winding, waving line. It should look something like this. Doesn't have to look exactly like this, and you'll see why we did that in a second. Now this is gonna be our sky. Once it's cut out, we're gonna take some yellow and some orange paint, and we are going to paint kind of wavy lines through the sky also. So I'll let you guys get out your orange paint, your yellow paint, and your paintbrush, and I'll let you guys start making some orange and yellow wavy lines on your sky. Alright, so your sky should look something like this. I've got some yellow and some orange lines throughout, and I've got the waves kind of at the bottom of my sheet of paper. Now this, as I mentioned earlier, is the sky. It's going to turn out to be our sky. So we're going to take our dark blue sheet of paper to be the rest of our background, and we are going to glue our sky at the top of our blue sheet of paper. Now, the sky has now given the blue kind of like the hills in the background of Oslo that we're going for. So you glue this down. Again, I somehow cannot find my glue, which if you know me is typical. If you don't know me, I lose everything. I am going to tape down my sky, but please glue yours down. Alright, so our next step is going to be to get your blue paint out. And you can take some white out and you can take your black out too, and just mix a few different colors of blue. Add some white to your blue, add some black to your blue, make a few different shades. I have made a blue color, and I am going to paint onto the blue part of my paper kind of like a winding pond, river, fjord shape. So I want it to go all the way from this side of my painting across to the other side. So it's going to be kind of, I think I'm going to want it, I don't know how well you can see that, kind of like that, but I'm also going to have it kind of go off into the distance. Really just make a watery shape. And you're going to fill that in with your blue paint. Alright, so I'm left with this kind of blue shape in the background, and this is going to be our water, our fjord. Now within that you'll want to put kind of some ripples of orange or yellow, because it's reflecting off the red sky. So I'm just going to go in with some orange and bring in some ripples around. Like that. Just to show that it's reflecting off the sky a little bit. So we have our fjord, we have our water, and it's kind of going off into the distance into our mountains. And our mountains, again, were made by the kind of wiggled line that we have from our sky. And our next step is to take our black paper, and we're going to cut out a series of lines. I'm going to say cut out 4, maybe a 1/4 inch strips out of this. We're going to use those to become the railing of our bridge. So that kind of fence or railing that he was leaning against when he was tired and he heard this scream. We are making that out of about 4 strips of construction paper. So let's cut those out and then we can meet back up. Alright, so once you have your 4 strips of black paper, you also want to cut out, it's not quite a triangle, but almost a triangle shape with a flat end. So I got some paint on the back of mine, but yours should look something like this. And this is going to be the ground of our bridge. So when I attach it, I'm going to attach it like this, and then cut off the excess off the back. Down there and over there, cut off that excess after I glue it down. And that's going to be the base of our bridge. Alright, so I've glued it down on the back. There's this excess that's down here and this excess up here that I'm just cutting off. And we are left with this. So this is going to be our bridge. The next thing we need to do is glue some rails, and we're using 2 different strips of paper that go right alongside our bridge and are closer to the water and the sky. And we're going to glue those down like that. So we're starting to make the railing of our bridge. Now again, it would be very convenient if I had glue right now, but I have tape, so I'm going to tape down the edges. Now the other strips we're going to cut up to make posts that hold up our fence on the side. Alright, so you should have a bridge and your sky and your water and your land in the background that look like this. Now in Edvard Munch's, his really does have like a red tint to it, so, or an orangey tint. So I am going to go into my orange paint and just put a little bit of orange over this black. Just back and forth on it. Very painterly, not perfect at all, big strokes. Now my bridge has a lot of orange on it like that, and I'm going to do the same with the railings. Alright, so yours should look something like this. The last thing we have to do is with some leftover black, is to make kind of the winding, distorted figure that is Edward. So we kind of just take our paper and make zigzaggy cuts and do the same on the other side. This should be kind of what our front figure looks like. I'm going to glue him onto the painting. For the 2 figures in the distance, those should be thinner. So I'm going to make just a skinnier version and put it in the distance and make one exactly like that. And for the 2 figures in the background, we're looking at the back of their heads as they're walking away, and we're just going to represent those with 2 black circles that we cut out. Alright, so we've got our guys in the background over there with their heads and their skinny little bodies. Now for Edward. Okay, so we are gonna cut out kind of a bigger circle around the size, I would say, of like a nickel sized. My paper is a little bit bigger than yours is. Because I have a bunch of scrapbooking paper at home. But we are going to cut out this circle for his head, and I am going to tape that down. And then his hands come up on either side, and it's actually his hands that make his face look like this. His head is round, but his hands come in like this. So we're gonna make some arms. I'm just gonna cut out some rectangles, and that's how we're gonna start. So cut out 2 rectangles, and that's how we're starting. Then what we need to do is make kind of zigzags around and down. So you want like little P's, little uppercase letter P's. And it shouldn't matter which way they go because they should be reversible. Now I am just going to take a little bit of black paint, and I'm going to try to paint kind of on the outside of them. You can also use a marker. That actually might work better. I'll do paint on one side and marker on the other. Alright, so the hand should look like this. And we will glue those on. I'm going to make his wrists or his arms a little shorter just at the wrists. And we are going to glue those on also. Alright, so you should have that signature kind of gaunt look. It should leave your face with a really skinny chin and a really wide top half of your face. Now, really the last step of this painting is going to be to give him some circle black eyes and then that classic really oval O mouth. So that's going to be the last step. So with your black marker, you can draw that right on. And with that, we are left with Edvard Munch's The Scream. Hope you guys learned a little bit about this painting. I know it's not the most happy painting to talk about, but I do think it's a little bit Halloween themed, a little bit spooky. And I just thought it was appropriate for right now, and maybe something that's fun to learn more about since it is so famous. Thanks for doing art with me today. I am thrilled that I still get to do this every month with you guys. Even though things are getting a little more back to normal, I'm excited that this still gets to be a part of my time, and I hope you guys are enjoying it too. So thanks for joining me, and I will see you guys again in the month of November. All right, bye.